Allow me to set the scene. A crowd is gathered, chatter fades away, as the silent anticipation settles in, a collective inhale before the plunge, and a performance begins. In that moment, the individual men and women present become an audience. In a multitude of forms across time and space, this ritual is universally recognized. We've experienced it for millennia. But how far will we take it into the future? The boundaries of time and space have been breached in ways our ancestors surely never imagined. The advent of film allowed us to record and archive events to be watched at any time. And the internet allows us to share content instantaneously across vast distances. An audience today can mean many thousands or millions of people in different places, all viewing something on their computers or on their phones, alone. What does this mean for theater as art and entertainment defined by a live audience? What will the theater mean to us as a living form of expression? Or will it become a relic from the past? Theater audiences have always changed with the times. But from the enormous outdoor gatherings of ancient Athenians to the bustling crowds squeezed into the Globe Theater, to those watching a Kutiyatam in an Indian temple theater, they have all shared one crucial element: coming together in a single space to watch a live performance. Until now. In 2009, the National Theatre of the UK launched an innovative new project. They broadcast a stage performance live to movie theaters around the country. They have now live streamed 20 productions, which have been viewed by 1.5 million people in 500 venues around the world. There is still a live audience at these performances, but multiple cameras are used and the footage edited in real time for broadcast to the masses. This year, Virtual Arts TV in New York organized the first Wired Arts Fest, the festival you can watch from your couch, as described by the Wall Street Journal. They streamed live dance, theater, and musical performances to over 60,000 viewers. This concept is alluring, not only as a way to gain global exposure, but also as a way to sell tickets to a potentially enormous pay-per-view virtual audience. Could this be the path for theater's journey into the future? Will this make the performing arts more sustainable? The two examples I just gave of live streaming theater are actually quite different from one another and highlight two different challenges faced by theater companies everywhere: attracting an audience and not going into debt. National Theatre Live is an example of a well-funded, well-attended theater becoming more accessible by broadcasting performances to a global audience. It is one of the few theater companies in the UK whose ticket buying audience is growing, and this new project doesn't change or threaten that. I've been following the production of Macbeth at the Manchester International Festival this summer, starring Kenneth Branagh and performed in a deconsecrated church. It is a very interactive production in a non-traditional theater space. The audience is warned that they shouldn't wear clothes they wouldn't want to get dirty, since earth, water, and fire are all used in the staging. During the battle scenes, mud and blood flies. The performances have been sold out. National Theatre Live did a live relay broadcast of the play on a huge screen in a city park where hundreds gathered with their picnic blankets to watch. The comments on the festival's Facebook page were glowing. A few had been both to the church performance and live broadcast simply to have a chance to see the play again. Others wrote that they appreciated having the opportunity to see a performance like this on the cheap. Here is a production that drew both a large real and virtual audience, but it's important to remember this is an exception, not the rule. Virtual Arts TV is also about accessibility and exposure to a wider audience for the performing arts. But the performers whose work was live streamed during the Wired Arts Fest were not part of a well-established theater company like the National Theatre, and they weren't international stars like Kenneth Branagh. So the goal here goes beyond accessibility and crosses into economic sustainability. For these artists performing in front of a very small live audience, there are no guarantees of financial security. Hence, the appeal of a virtual audience, potentially so much larger than one they could ever hope to get into a theater. The paradox, of course, is that if their live audience is gradually replaced by a virtual one, then what they're performing is no longer theater. This expansion into the digital world is actually stretching theater beyond its definition. I can assure you that trying to get people to see a play is not for the faint of heart. In my experiences both on stage and behind the scenes, the most pervasive question that looms over any production, other than, will I remember my cue, or will that loose plank on the stage finally collapse, is, will anyone come to see it? There are many reasons for this, too many to discuss today. Blame has been generously dispersed, heaped on the audience, the actors, the directors, the playwrights, and the ticket prices alike. If asked why he or she didn't come to the play, a potential theatergoer might reply, I've seen too many bad productions. I don't feel like enduring another one. Fair enough. But let's make a simple comparison with theater's apparent rival, film. How many of us have seen a bad movie? I think we all have. And how many of us have given up on seeing movies because of that bad movie? Probably none of us. In fact, I've even watched more than one movie that I was pretty sure was bound to be bad. The difference is that movies require little commitment from the audience. If you leave halfway through or text your friends the whole time or turn it off, no one cares. A play requires more because its existence depends on you. As legendary director Peter Brook stated, the only thing that all forms of theater have in common is the need for an audience. This is more than a truism. In the theater, the audience completes the steps of creation. Theater, at least in the Western world, did a lot of soul-searching in the 20th century. In the 20s and 30s, it took on a hard edge, particularly from Germany going east. Epic theater, as imagined by the great dramatist Bertolt Brecht, fanned the flames of social unrest and had a visceral impact on the audience. The era was peppered with theater riots across Europe. Experimentation continued in the decades following World War II, but the effect and the audiences seemed to be ever diminishing. This is when some predicted theater's death at the hands of film and television. How could a performance on stage, however elaborate, compete with the astounding realism or rich fantasy conjured on screens? Instead of fumbling for an answer, let's change the question. Why would theater compete with film? A theatrical performance offers something else, an experience at the same time immediate, real, yet ephemeral, one that the audience itself impacts by its very presence. Back to basics, intimate performances have definitely been on the rise. Film and television offer us a lot of reality, recreating our world or other worlds in painstaking detail. This liberates theater from the task. To again quote Peter Brook, and I think this will be the last time, when new plays set out to imitate reality, we are more conscious of what is imitative than what is real. This is inspiring a new approach to space, taking performances outside the four walls of what we consider a traditional theater. One of the most striking things about the submissions we've received from performers across Mexico for the Fringe Festival is their flexibility. We can adapt to any space. We prefer a non-traditional space. These performers may have more in common with the traveling players who wandered Elizabethan England than with their contemporary brethren on Broadway. And I think they are the future. So where does this leave us? Certainly not mourning the end of theater. A theatrical performance is fallible, and it is mortal. In other words, it is supremely human. This element of unpredictability is tantalizing. Some of the most memorable theatrical performances may be the ones where something went wrong or the unexpected happened. The words of a play can survive and inspire for centuries. But the performance of Henry VIII that burned down the Globe Theatre in 1613 when a cannon misfired, that can only be imagined. And in case you're wondering, no one was killed in the fire, and the only injury recorded was a man whose burning breeches were put out with a bottle of ale. When was the last time you brought a six-pack to see a play? No wonder they call it the golden age of theater. In those moments when an actor loses his way in the script or a prop malfunctions, there is an electric flash of understanding and appreciation between performer and audience. And in this spontaneous moment, a surprising spark of creativity or ingenuity can emerge. The illusion may have faltered, caused by inevitable human error. And both sides are reminded of their roles, both on the stage and in the seats. After all, it's only a play. But it inspires a unique camaraderie amongst strangers, perhaps one we hunger for more than we realize. A film takes you inside the imagination of a writer and director, but a play demands you use your own imagination. I believe this is what will keep it alive, perhaps even give it new strength in an age when we receive so many images and so much information in a virtual context. Watching a movie in bed, listening to a Bach cello suite on an iPod, or streaming a TV show to a laptop. The advances of the information age have given us back something theater once possessed: accessibility. Particularly during that golden age in Shakespeare's England, audiences were mixed. Men, women, rich, poor could all sit or stand together at the playhouse. Today, the democratizing force of the internet could bring a theatrical performance to someone who never considered or couldn't afford to buy a ticket to see a play. Our challenge is to use this tool, this digital openness, to not just encourage audiences to watch at home, but to kindle a desire for the live theater experience. How to explore this new world without forgetting the magic we already discovered so many centuries ago? That is the question. Thank you very much.